How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to our Cisco Enterprise series, where we are continuing our section on BGP best path selection. In this video, we're going to be focusing on the origin code and how you can have BGP change the origin code to do best path selection. So we're going to take a look at exactly how that works and see what the deal is. Now, we're getting a little further down in the order of best path selection. So this is one of those things where this is going to be a tiebreaker. You need to take a look at your routes, and you need to analyze them to determine which one's going to be IGP over EGP. So which are you going to do, or redistribution over incomplete? So incomplete is your question mark. The little I is going to be your IGP. So the network statement was used and all that good stuff that goes along with it. It's a little bit more challenging because we had to look at the table and say, okay, we have two equal hops. Now, if the tiebreaker is further down, so for example, if we're using the IGP metric to the next hop, we could in that particular case we could use origin code, changing it to affect the best path selection. So what we need to do is we actually need to look at what we see from in this particular case here. Now I need to go back to 62. I don't think I removed it. And do show run section BGP. Yeah, I didn't actually remove it. I need to go back to here. And let's go to here. And we're going to say no. And we're going to pull this this route map out. I forgot to do that in the previous video. So do clear IP BGP star soft. And do show IP BGP. So that should clear that. We'll go on 42. We'll hit the up arrow. And now we see everything coming through equally. So I'm going to look at router 26. And what I want to look at is perfect. So this gives us a great indication of what we got going on. Okay? So like I mentioned just a minute ago, if we look at quad 8, right? The AS hop paths are the same. We have the same origin code. The local preference is the same. They're both internal routes. It just we happen to be using the IGP metric to the next hop happens to be lower. So this is one of those cases where I can go ahead and when we come to route propagation, and this can happen anywhere in the path as well. So typically speaking, this would be said outbound to something like that, where I could go through and we look at quad 8, and I could say if right now 42, if 42 is our egress point outbound from 26, what I could do is I could say on 42 outbound, I could say, or I could do this on 62 as well. I can test it on both. I can show you what it looks like on both. We can go through and say, you know what, for quad 8, we are going to set the origin code to be incomplete for traffic coming from 42. So let's go ahead and try that out. So we'll go to 62 first, and I'm going to go create a route map for this. So it's going to be route-map RM, we're going to say BGP origin code. I'm going to say permit 10. We're going to say match the IP address and prefix list. What prefix list did I use? I used PL Google. We're going to do that. And then set the origin code to be incomplete. And we're going to do this on the peering to XR42. So do show run section BGP. Let me go ahead and scoot this up just a little bit because our BGP config is getting a little long now. I need to come all the way down to this guy, 4262, and I need to go ahead and say route map, and it's going to be the route map of BGP origin code, and then we're going to set that outbound. Okay. So now, again, if I look at 42, or if I look at 26, I should say, 26, right, right now it's choosing 42. So if I go to 62 and I do clear IPBGP star soft and I do show IPBGP, I should be for quad 8. If I go to 42, I should start seeing this path being the preferred path, right? And if we look at 26, now it's choosing 60. If I just look at it this way, we don't see 42 showing up anymore. So this is one of those situations where, you know, you'd have to do it before and after because we changed the origin code, right? Now, if we were to, you can, and this is one of those ones where it disappears on you. So what we're going to do is on 26, I am going to go do show run pipe section BGP. And for my peering to 42, we go to global config. I am going to go router BGP, and on this peering, I'm going to say soft reconfiguration inbound and hit the enter key. And I'm going to do a clear IP BGP star soft. And I'm going to do a show IP BGP. And I'm going to look at, for the neighbor of 1.0.0.42, receive routes. And we're only getting 134.42. So if you didn't have the average software configuration inbound, you would never get to see this. So that's essentially what that's coming into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do a trace route to Google. And we should take the path through 60, which we are. So that's a fairly straightforward option because we use the origin code. We change the origin code and how that comes into play. Now, the cool thing about this is we can do this on a per network basis too. So we can add a route map that says the origin code. So instead of it being a network statement, and that's what we're going to go do now. I'm going to go back over to 62 and I'm going to pull this command out. So we're going to get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is on Internet Server 1, we're going to do a show run section BGP. And I'm going to go to, and wait till it is done propagating. So we should go back to 62 and do a do clear IPBGP star soft. And if I go back to 42 and hit the up arrow, we should see them both coming in as I routes. What I'm going to go do is on Internet Server 1, I'm going to go create a route map, route-map, RM, BGP origin code, and permit 10, and we're going to set the origin code to be incomplete. Then do show run section, then we should just be able to go to here at the end of this and say route map route map BGP origin code and just hit the enter key and do clear IP BGP star soft. And then what that'll end up doing is on 62, I hit this guy right here, and now this guy will appear as though it's coming from as an incomplete route. Now if we go to 42 and hit the up arrow, those I's should start to move to question marks. This will probably take a minute for it to propagate. I don't think I propagated it far enough yet. So do clear IP BGP star soft. Let's go to 42. There they are. Now they're showing up as that. If I look at 26, I'm receiving that path now via quad 8, right? And if I look at the routes, you really can't go any deeper than that, right? That's one of those caveats that you got to be cognizant of. But if I look at show IPBGP, I can see that quad 8 is coming through as a incomplete path. So I can manipulate it both ways, right? I can use it as an AS path manipulation. I'm sorry, I can use it as an origin code manipulation to do traffic engineering or best path selection, change the direction it's going to go, or I can make it look a network statement, but it's advertised as a redistributed route. So you can manipulate that as well. So it's just one of those things where now they're just one of many things that you can manipulate as you're going along. So now that we've done that, what I can do is, and I can do this on a per peering too. Like I just mentioned, what I could do is on the internet server router, instead of setting it here, I could set it outbound on a particular peering. So you would see both coming in. So let's take a look at it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and say through 44, right? We're going to say route map BGP origin code, and we're going to set that outbound. Okay, so now I'm going to do clear IP BGP star soft. Now 62 is going to learn it. We're going to learn it. So this is kind of interesting. If we look at it before, we had quad 8 coming from 3.162.1 this way, right? But now we see it coming through 3.141. We see our BGP confed peering, right? That comes through. Then we look at 42. We hit the up arrow, do show IP BGP. The same thing looks. So nothing really changes outside of that, but what we did is we changed the way that 62 sees it. Right? 62 now sees it as there's two different paths to it, and now it's going to choose this path. I mean, it was choosing that path anyway, right? So if I was to say, okay, cool, I want to make, instead of doing it this way, go ahead and pull this one out, and then let's do this one instead. Let's go 62. Neighbor, and then route dash map BGP origin code, and then say outbound, and let's hit the up arrow a couple times. And then we go back to 62, hit the up arrow, and actually now it's going to still choose 62, because on the internet server, no, I didn't take it out on that one. Let's go back to 62, hit the up arrow again, and then as soon as it updates, we should see 44 become the primary path, because, well, actually 62 will always be it, but I want to change the origin code. So internet server do show run section BGP, just to make sure I've got it configured correctly. Ah, okay, that's why. So we're going to add it to this guy. You know what? Okay, so that's my mistake. So I'm going to say just this command right here. And so my goal was to do the AS path prepending. I'm sorry, not the AS path prepend, but to show it coming in, but I'm tagging the route itself with the origin code. So let me pull that off and show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and just reapply this. Right, and then we'll go and do that takes that. So now 62 should see coming in as internal route, right? But then I want to change the origin code to be prepended on 62. So back on this guy here, I'm going to do show run section BGP. Sorry, internet server. So we're going to do 3.162. We're going to apply that there. And then we'll do clear IP BGP star soft. And then go to 62, hit the up arrow. And now you'll see that before, this guy right here it's got a longer AS hop. Technically speaking, it's one AS hop because you don't consider the confederation as a AS path because it's in parentheses. It's a known confederation eBGP peering. But if we come down to this one now, it was choosing 62 before because it's a shorter AS path, right? And if I was to dig into it specifically, it would tell me that. So if I do show IP BGP quad 8/32, Confed external is the best, but the origin code is incomplete. So because the fact that we changed this to be the I, and I can pull that off real quick just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, but now we're choosing 44 to get to where we got to go. Now the cool thing about this is anywhere in the path this is going to show up because it's a well-known transitive attribute. So we go to 42, right? It's telling me to go be a 62 because 62 has both paths available to it. It's going to advertise both. And if I go to 26 and hit the up arrow, it's still going to tell me to go be a 42. But what's interesting, I might have to do a clear IP BGP star soft. I should be receiving, nope, it's going to, 42, it's interesting, it's not propagating. 42 sees it, right? No, 42 does not see it. So I need to do a clear BGP IPv4 unicast star soft. And then it should trigger. Maybe I need to do it on this guy. Do clear IP BGP star soft. Then 42 should get it appropriately. Interesting. It's not coming across. So origin code IGP, origin code IGP. Yeah, it's like the command is not, 62 sees it, which is kind of funny. 62 is getting advertised as an origin code of incomplete. 42 sees it as IGP for both. I might just have to wait for it to update, but I might have made a few too many changes at one time. But the point being here was you can go through and as long as you have two routes to the same destination, and you can change the origin code and that'll change the best path selection. So it's just another way of doing it. So that's just another example of what you can do. So it's pretty straightforward stuff there too. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, things like that. Oh, actually, before I bug out here, let's go ahead and trace route to quad 8. And so we're taking 4262. So we're taking the normal path because we're not manipulating here. Even though, and it wouldn't because we're doing the configuration changes further inside of AS3 that it wouldn't affect it. So if I was to look back at 42, yeah, it's still 62 sees it. It's very, very. Let me do this. Let me jump out of global config to a show IP BGP neighbors 3.1.62.1. No, sorry. It's going to be 13.42.62.42 advertised routes. So I'm advertising quad 8. Ah, that explains it. Because even though 62 sees it, he's advertising it as the best path. 62 sees it as two different places, right? We see it as this and this, right? But the best path, according to my routing table, based on BGP origin code manipulation, this is the best path. So this is what I'm going to advertise to router 42. That's why you see that. And then if I was to do the same thing for 13.60.62, 62.60, same thing. I'm going to advertise this path, which is why you see that. It's an origin code, it's incomplete, or sorry, it's IGP. That's why we see it that way. But here, that brings me back to what I mentioned in a previous video. Being able to discern based off where you're at in the routing in the AS path list. That's the key thing here. This is why I'm showing you what I'm showing you. Because at first I was like, well, why is it not showing the question mark? Well, because it's not going to, because it's not a best path. It's only going to show you the best paths in the BGP table. So it is what it is. So I just wanted to show you with origin code, you can change several different variables, or you can change the same variable at different places. And each one will have a slightly different effect. So it's going to be your job, especially when may not be CCI lab specific, but if you're trying to do best path selection, I've never used origin code in a production environment. I was like, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. And I'll rattle off and I'll be like, okay, we could use origin code here to do this. And it really, the bottom line is the bulk of the customers that I've worked with, they don't really want you to give them a brain dump of how BGP origin codes work. They don't care. Or they don't care about BGP best path selection processing. They're more concerned with the overall big picture of their network, and they're trying to get to a particular place in the network. Network stability, best path, optimal routing, all those things, right? Trying to take advantage of the money that they've spent on their environment. So what I would tell them is, if I'm doing traffic engineering, it's going to be local preference for traffic out of the network and AS path prepending for traffic coming back into the network. Those are the two most common things. Most people are comfortable with those things. So, but if you wanted to be like, well, you know what, if we're going to sit here and do kind of a brain dump on it, you could also use origin code. You could use the network statement, manipulate that in that respect. So there's multiple ways you can do it, but these are the two that I recommend the most. The de facto standards, stuff like that. So, and I have, in my experience, when I'm a straight shooter like that, and I tell them, okay, this is what I would do, I have other options, and I know how to manipulate them, that does go to credibility as an engineer. But at the end of the day, the customers aren't going to care. Maybe they'll be like, well, what if we did this, or what if we did that, or if they have additional questions, you might have to dig into those particular things, but 99% of the time, they're not going to go that deep. And I'll be honest with you, if you have taken yourself to the CCNP level of network engineering, and you can competently be able to go through the best path selection algorithm and manipulate them and understand how to set up BGP peerings, you're going to be better off than I'd say probably 50 to 60% of the network engineers that are out there. Because most of them don't take it this far. They just don't. And I have worked with several engineers that have zero certifications. Now, some of them, they are out there, and they are not as few and far between as they used to be, that are really, really sharp in network engineering. They really understand how this stuff works, and they could engineer and design me in circles around me. I wouldn't even be able to hold a candle to them, and they don't have a CCIE, right? But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, having the understanding of how this works obviously is important, but you need to be able to take into consideration what's going to be best at the end of the day for what I'm trying to accomplish here. Doing a brain dump on how origin codes work, yeah, you're just kind of showing off at that point, if you ask me. Like, if you were an internal engineer with me and you started, if you're studying for your CCNP or, your CCIE or whatever it is, and then you said all that to a customer, I'd be like, hey, bro, I wouldn't say it to you in the meeting. What I would probably say is like, well, those are you are correct in all of those particular cases. However, my professional opinion is we should do this. It's going to be the easiest thing to implement. It's going to give them the biggest bang for their buck, and they'll be good to go. And then I'll talk to you internally and be like, okay, so here's the deal, man. They don't care. Like, yes, clearly you're knowledgeable about XYZ technologies, but the customer doesn't care, right? They're not paying for us to be super, super smart. They're paying us to do XYZ for their environment. Yes, it sounds like you know BGP pretty well, and kudos to you for doing that. But just keep in the back of your mind that the customer doesn't care how well you know BGP. Unless they start asking questions, or maybe they themselves are studying for a certification and they want to kind of shoot the breeze with you on that. That's a whole different set of circumstances. But most of the time, customers aren't going to care. So that's what it really comes down to is, what do I need to do in order to make this happen? So the whole purpose of this entire series is to lay out how you would do them for a certification perspective and show you what the different options are. But the reality of it is, customer environments, they're not going to care. Simple as that. And if they do care, it's like, oh, sure. That it's very rare to get a customer that does have this level of understanding and is willing to take the 15, 20 minutes to do a whiteboard session to understand how it would work. So if you can get that, I can tell you off the top of my head, I think I've had that level of depth, technical conversation probably 4 or 5 times in my entire career, where you get somebody that knows BGP well enough to be able to keep up with you and know what you're talking about beyond what the basics are. So just my experience, but that's essentially what you're going to have to keep in the back of your mind when it comes to being able to articulate to the customer what it is you're trying to accomplish. With that being said, that is all I have for you in this video. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, drop that in the comment section below. If you haven't already done so, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one.